Hi everyone, thanks for dropping in and welcome to the first hands-on episode of Programming Thor with Grant. I'm going to make a couple of assumptions before we start. Firstly, that you've got some version of Propellerhead or Reason Studios Reason from version 4 onwards. That'd be a version that includes the Thor synthesizer in it. I'm also going to assume that you've already installed Reason and you've got it set up with a sound driver and some form of MIDI keyboard input. I would recommend that your keyboard has at least a modulation wheel, because one of the great ways of introducing life into a synthesizer patch is to use a modulation wheel to vary some of the parameters in real time. So it'd be great if you have at the very least a modulation wheel on your MIDI keyboard, and it'll be handier if you have either continuous controller knobs or sliders available to you, but that's not necessary. You can do the course just using the mouse to change all the parameters. But when it comes to programming up different parameters which are interrelated, then it's nice to have the immediate feel of a few sliders so that you can trim each of the different values simultaneously rather than jumping between them with the mouse. But as I say, it's not necessary, but it's just a nice extra to have. Okay, so what we're going to do in this episode is just purely bring up the Thor instrument into the main rack, and we'll have a look at what the programmer looks like. So if we just do that, there are various ways that you can bring Thor into the rack. You can either grab it from the instrument, pile over here, or my preferred way is just to right click in the rack and choose Thor Polysonic Synthesizer. So there we go, it's in the rack, and just give it a wee play. So that's the Epic Poly sound, which is the one which it defaults to whenever you bring in the Thor to the rack. So in order to see what's going on behind the scenes, if we push the Show Programmer button here, and there we have it. That's the full front panel of Thor, and yeah, it's quite overwhelming when you see it for the first time, but you'll learn that actually it's quite logical, quite easy to understand once you break it down into its constituent parts. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually reset it to an initialized voice, which is a very simple patch. So the way to do that is select somewhere on the panel, like in here, filter 2, where it's bypassed. So it's just a blank panel here, and if I right click on here and come down about halfway to where it says reset device, and we click in there, and as you can see, it's already taken away quite a lot of the modules from in here, and it's made it quite a bit simpler. So if we just play that patch, nice and simple, but we're going to make it even simpler. So the thing to do is take away this low pass ladder filter. So the way to do that is to click on this down arrow button here up in the top corner, and if we go right down to the bottom of the options here to bypass and click on that, it removes the filter from the panel. So all we're left with is an analog oscillator going into an amplitude envelope, and that's it. For the purposes of demonstrating synth programming, we're also going to make it a wee bit simpler again. If we go up to the main control panel here and look at the keyboard modes, you can see that it's in polyphonic mode just now. So that means that you can play multiple keys at once. But in order to make things focused, we're going to change it to mono re-trigger mode. So there are two ways you can go to that. You can either click on the mono re-trig option itself, and you can see the LED changes to there, or you can cycle round using the mode button. So it's mono re-trig, and if we try to play a chord with that, you can see that it only ever plays one note at once, regardless of how many you're holding down. So that's our first program. We've actually created a patch there. So the thing to do in order to keep that is if we go up here and we go to the save patch option here, so it's like a wee floppy disk symbol, and click on that, that will bring up a dialog box of where you want to save it. So as you can see, I've already got a Thor patches directory, but what we'll do is we'll choose a new fresh folder to store all of the programs, all of the patches that we're developing over the course of this course. So go into this PC, and as you can see, I've got the main system hard drive, which is an SSD drive, which is drive C, and I've got a drive E, which is a hard disk drive where I keep all my data rather than program files. So I'll go into drive E, and I'll just create a new folder here, and we'll call it Thor with Grant. And go in here, and down here we'll give it a new name, so we'll just call it My First Patch. And save that, and there we go. You can see that it's changed up there, and it's ready to go. So that's us. That's our first episode finished. Congratulations. See you next time.